Good morning, everyone. Uh, the topic of the lecture is a few words about leadership in code teams, because being leader is hard, and if anyone tells you differently, actually lies to you. And I'll try not to and tell you a few of my experiences. I'll tell some stories about leading in general and then go to some specifics, and those tips and examples might not apply to you like entirely, but I believe at least some might be helpful and easy to apply in your teams. We'll see about that. So the plan is introduction, the role of the leader, trust versus performance, communication, feedback, team building, anti-fragility, specifics of the code team, a few workflow tips, summary, and then place for questions and answers. So let's begin. And for starters, please do enjoy the presentation. Note your questions, but you don't have to take notes of the slides, because it will be available to you through QR code at the end or easy to download links. So just sit and enjoy. And if you don't know me, so hello, my name is Grzegorz Wątroba. I'm a programmer for about 13 years now. I did a bunch of projects for different platforms, multiple engines and languages. And here's a list of companies I was cooperating with. In some of them, I led the team or project. In some, just followed or I worked as a support in a sense. Also, I worked outside the game dev, so I have a few things about the another perspective, I think, and I hope to share with you today some things that might be useful to you. So enough of the introductions, let's get to the basics. Who is a leader and what qualities the position needs? And why do we even bother, right? So first of all, when we have a structure in a company, the larger it gets, the harder it is to maintain control over it. So I don't believe in flat structure. There's always a person that makes the final decision, and at some point it is impossible for a boss, product owner, project director to control people in company inner workings, right? So that's why we need leaders to lead the group sharing the same competence or goal. And we don't have to focus then on microscopic problem and in a company, but think like on a broader strategy, and then delegate them to leaders, and they will do the groundwork. And the functions of the leader, I believe, is keeping the transparent communication within the team, communicate horizontally, so between the teams, and vertically, so with workers in a team and to the upper management, help producers and upper management to organize work, help your team to complete their tasks, make decisions, and take responsibility for them, educate your team, be a mentor, and maintain company's culture. So what are qualities of a leader? So there are a few theories about that. First of all, servitude. So you've seen the structure from the previous presentation, so top down, right? But now actually as a leader, you should rotate it upwards, and then you'll see image like this. So being a leader should be about serving and helping your team, not your personal gain, no, not your ambition, and not your pride. Then there is this law of buying of John C. Maxwell that you have to be ready to invest your time, your efforts, your engagement. And if you show that you're ready to be uncomfortable, to sacrifice your personal gain for others, then people will naturally follow, because they will want to give back. Then the theory of Major Winter's World War II hero, officers go first. So this means as a leader, you have to be a front to promote ideas, be the first line to be faulted or burdened with discomfort or failure, and you take the risk. You should be the pioneer in some ideas or help someone to achieve that pioneer idea. Then you have to be an example to follow. So as a leader, people look up to you, and if you don't want your team to crunch, then you shouldn't crunch. If you want them to communicate properly, you have to do it yourself. If you want them to push the boundaries of excellence and provide the highest quality possible, then they need to see that in you as well. And then we have this 3C rule, so character, competence, and commitment. So character is this moral backbone. You don't lie to your team. You're ready to sacrifice short-term for long-term and so on. And competence, that you see the broader picture. You don't see like a tunnel vision of only your division. You see others, how they work, how they are related to each other, and so on. Then commitment. So people see that you care about the company, about the values, about the project, and most importantly of all, about the people. And sticking to your values is actually a very important one. Then there's this acronym PROMISE, made by John C. Maxwell in 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Actually, that's a really good book, so I recommend to all leaders out there. It holds a really good collection of guidelines for leaders, so let's delve into that promise. And this is provide honest and actionable feedback. So this is bad, and saying nothing else, it's not actionable feedback, right? Remove obstacles and preempt problems on the problems, make the time, influence the management for your team and for company, spread the praise. So if you are praised for something, it's rarely a one-man job. It's always a team, or most of the time there is a team. So you have to share that praise you receive, and then encourage to make decision and take responsibility. And then you will see gradually along this presentation that those elements of this acronym actually will be somewhere. And let's go to like 2 basic examples, I think, from my own experience. And first, of course, it's a failure because I was very young to lead a team like more than 10 years ago. And I wasn't making the time. Actually, I was just focused on achieving the goal. I didn't trust so much people in my team. And that was a really bad mistake. Also, I didn't make time for one-on-ones, for example, which I think is very crucial if you have the bigger structure, and to sacrifice a bit of time just to ask your people, what do you need? What are the problems? How can I help? And I didn't make that time once. And one of my best, or at least most experienced programmer actually said that he wants to change the company because I wasn't making time for like 2-3 weeks because I was just too overwhelmed with the job. And then eventually when we talked, he said that he wants to change the job because he said he felt left out. He didn't have anyone to ask for help. He's the most experienced one, so he actually has to help others. And that feeling of being left out actually struck me because this was my actual job to help him. And actually, I managed to convince him to stay. And from that time, I was really scared that he actually will leave the company, and we couldn't afford that. So I learned from that you have to make time for anyone, from the least experienced people to the most experienced one, because this is the asset actually very important in terms of communication and actually seeing the problems of individuals in your team. Second is more positive one actually, so influencing the management, because in other project where I was leading, we were crunching like hell, and then we had those leisure conversations where somebody was joking, oh, see, I have a few new offers on LinkedIn, maybe I should change the job. And everybody started to talking about it. And then I felt that, generally pay rise is all over the place in gaming industry. We are crunching like hell. we don't have the time to finish properly our tasks, and I think we are underpaid. So I talked to the boss and said, listen, we are on the edge. Actually, people are trying to look for another job. This is dangerous, and we cannot afford that. So if there is a possibility, talk to a publisher. Maybe there's this piece of budget to like extend the time of execution, extend the budget to like give raise to everybody, because we are working constantly like for a month or so in overtime. And actually he agreed, and that was like a very positive of my former boss. But if we didn't talk about it, he probably wouldn't be aware of the problem, and at the end he could lose the team. So influencing the management, I think, is also important, and it's important to take this risk for the sake of your team. Then so making the change is hard, and it's worth not to make the revolution, because the bigger push and change, the bigger opposition you will get, and you'll have to deal with it. So introduce change with small steps. Do not enforce your will, because you will become a tyrant, and people will do what you tell them to do because they have to, not because they want to. So if you want the change, be the change you want to see in others. Double check yourself first, holding specific values you want to see in others. If you don't, and if you don't see it by yourself, ask someone to like grade your values, grade your performance in given area before you want to expect them from others. But do show your values and beliefs, because then people most probably will follow you. And don't start with facts. Actually, start with why. The change is important, and that is leading us to starting with why. So this is the theory of Simon Sinek, which is actually applicable to many areas of life. And most of the people start from the outside, so they show the goal and how to achieve it, but do not explain why it's important. If you start inside out, you will show your values and beliefs and inspire people to follow. So the first summary is this: the quality of your leadership determines the amount of success of your team. So there are leaders and those who lead. Those who lead use position of power and enforce their will to others. True leaders inspire, and we follow those people not because we have to, but because we want to. So this is important to get into that flow. And now let's get to another theory of Mr. Sinek, the Navy SEALs story. So trust versus performance. And each person has this certain range of hard skills which are connected with knowledge and expertise, and as well as the soft skills that revolve around communication, openness, will to cooperate, and this engagement which encourages trust. And chart here shows the idea which Simon Sinek developed while talking to Navy SEALs, so one of the best organized team in the world. And they have the slogan, "I can trust you with my life, but can I trust you with my money and my wife?" Which shows that every team needs highly performative units, but not at the expense of the team structure and trust. Sure, nobody wants low performance and low trust people in a team, but often it's better to have more trustworthy one in the team than highly performative but utterly toxic, because it will can break down the team completely, right? And if you look around your own teams and ask each person who is the one who cares the most, or you can always lean on certain person, you will most probably find one or two people in your team that actually is pointed by others, and those are natural leaders that people might want to follow. And not always the highest performer actually is the best fit for a leader. Why? Because team management is time consuming. So not every time it's efficient to burden the best shooter with organization of others. And this is the most popular example. I've seen this in normal IT and game development. where people, because of their tenure, they are risen to be leaders, and actually there are specialists that they work the best when they are like in a corner doing hard stuff, and now they have to talk to people, they have to organize things, they have to talk about production budget and so on. And then you can get actually the miserable, lousy leader that is angry because he cannot bring the actual value he wants to in the company and has to deal with people. And it's better to actually choose the one that you can trust, that is more communicative and that thinks a bit broader, and it might not be the highly performative unit in your company. Then, since we have this basic ley line of why we need to trust, let's see the ways to achieve it. So the proper communication. Do not mind read for first things. Do not expect people that they have the same knowledge because people have different backgrounds. Then don't rely on your schemas, and do not assume that people will know everything that you know, that things obvious to you are obvious to others. And do not assume that people have certain mindset about you. Just ask why, ask how, and do really try to find your sense of entitlement actually as a leader, because this might create toxic situations. Then this balance between actually the self-worth and confidence is hard, because we tend to escape the conflict when we have the imposter syndrome or low self-worth, and the other side, when we have big sense of entitlement, then we cannot communicate properly as well. So do not fear to ask questions, and do listen to others. And I think the most important thing for a leader is listen first. So servitude as well. And there's this bunch of communication modes or techniques, but those two modes tend to work the best, and they are really simple. So the negotiated mode is when you have to plan, you have to establish something as a leader. You take the responsibility for the conversation to be led in a way when you focus on solving the problem and hear everybody's ideas how to do it. And if we show that we are respectful to others and consider their opinions, we can easily convince them through team values to do things in a certain way. And you should communicate with simple sentences without beating around the bush, give open questions so everybody could speak up, but still take responsibility for the proper, concrete communication. And the second mode is NVC, so nonviolent communication, devised by Marshall B. Rosenberg, and this is more personal and emotional mode, when you have to solve conflicts and talk about hard things. And in this mode, you start with what you feel at a certain situation and what caused it, but without judging others. So this is quite tricky and hard at first, but do read the Nonviolent Communication book. Actually, it will help in very tricky situations. Then be precise in your speech and avoid wildcard words. So the least field of interpretation, the better. Remember that language relies on certain intention that might be received in the wrong way. So the better you know somebody, the more things you'll notice. So one-on-ones actually help to know your team. The better you know somebody, you will know what things you should and should not say, and it's worth taking note of that. And that will help to get to that person to communicate, to delegate things. And if something happens that you feel you might be misinterpreted, try to explain it as soon as possible. Then the feedback is also a really important thing, aside of standard communication. So criticism is hard to actually deliver and to accept, because in game development and other creative fields, we are most often emotionally attached. When you are working on longer period of time on certain project, you start to identify with it. So assessment of this work sometimes or often becomes, in our mind, assessment of ourselves. And actually trying to dissipate that and separate, it's hard, but it's worth working on. And then criticism and accepting criticism is hard because we feel rejection. We don't like to be pointed at in the group. So if you have to say something really critical to somebody, it's worth to say it separately, individually, instead of in a group. And if you praise somebody, you actually, it's better to praise people in a group. Then you can always have a bad day and do not want to hear anybody about yourself, anything about yourself, and then you can just ask for rain check. You are open to criticism, you are open to receive feedback, but not at this point. But if you're taking rain check for it, you have to remember to cash it later. And then years ago, I heard a massive praise for the sandwich technique to cover a bad thing with two positive ones. And to be honest, it can sometimes bring more harm than gain. And it creates that emotional swing, this push and pull manipulative mechanics that actually send mixed signals to the recipient. So actually, I recommend keep, stop, start. This technique not only starts positively, points bad elements in behavior, in job, and something, right? Yeah, but constructively shows the way to improve. So I think this mechanic is better, and actually it is useful not only to feedback, but to a summary of certain milestones or something like that. Then, in general, critique and praise. Assess the work, not the person. Be precise about your remarks. Try to investigate the reason of failure with respect. Like I said, praise publicly, criticize privately. Notice the value and praise it adequately, but do not overuse it because then it loses value. And I've seen another group of examples, both in IT and game dev, that boss just said, they know they've done a good job, or the success itself is the best praise. That's actually the biggest crap I've heard. So I think the worst thing I heard is there's nothing to praise for a successful milestone. And that's hurtful, I think, because people with a creativity, loads of commitment, work are cooperating between completely different branches. Actually, in game dev, this is most and most present. The different branches of art and technology working together to create something for nothing. So think of the value of that work and how incredible it is to create something like that. And clients actually like it. So there's much to praise for, right? And saying that there's nothing to praise for actually is bad thing. And all those values, communication tools, and proper feedback leads to team building. And why it's important, because the well-built team knows what to do and don't have to guess it, and does less mistake, proceed in a more efficient manner. Aside from more practical side with proper communication and feedback, we have less stressed and highly motivated team, which can be seen outside the company. So people see that this company does good for its people. So this draws positive attention, makes it easier to hire people and so on. So how to properly build a team? Of course, common trust reduces sense of threat and allows to focus on work and raises productivity. And the environment to be open about the problems and ask questions is really important. So when I start in every company, I just tell right off the bat that I don't know everything. I might have dumb questions in the beginning, but if you'll answer me, you won't have to be asked again. So when I'm taking role of the leader in companies, I just try to find the problem that will require from me to ask people for help, to show that I can make mistakes. I can ask others things that are obvious to everyone else. That actually creates this notion that this guy in hierarchy is a bit above us, but is not afraid to ask questions. So maybe I should also be brave enough to ask questions. So this is I think very important, and asking why, asking even most simple questions sometimes helps because you create this example for others. Then Łukasz Hacura, CEO of Ansha Studios, once said, "Game development team should not be a family; it should be a sports team prepared for the Olympics." And I might be wrong in interpretation of it, and probably he'll correct me sooner or later, but I cannot agree more with the sentence, and here's my thoughts about it. Focus on honesty, respect, and efficiency, not the emotional safety, because you have to be brave enough to talk about the tough stuff. Then direct people to a certain goal without taking them by their hand. So point people to a certain direction, but not push them forcefully or like be overprotective parent to them. Give people agency and not overprotectiveness, and drive people to excellence through training, not by doing things for them. That I believe will encourage people to be at their best and thrive in the long run, because the sports events may be about the points and winning with other teams, but within a team, the game is completely different. And what is that game? Another theory from Simon Sinek, because we have basically two games, infinite and finite. So the infinite game, maybe first finite game. Finite game has known players, fixed rules, agreed upon objectives. We get the points. We know who's the best. Infinite game has known and unknown players. Rules can change over time, and the goal is actually to stay in the game. So player fall out when they are drained out of resources, or they drain out the will to play. And driving a company to perpetuate on the market is actually infinite game. Driving for excellence of your team is an infinite game. The goal of team building and improving is not to be the best, to compare yourself to others. The goal of team building and improvement is to thrive and build gradually to improve yourself, not to beat competition. So know your goals and values, sacrifice short-term for long-term, create an environment to be open about fears, mistakes, and asking for help. And there's this gym wisdom: do not compare yourself to others. If you're consistent, if you progress with your own pace, compare with yourself from the past and be proud of what you have achieved. And be flexible, because hard materials bend or break. To adapt, you should aim for anti-fragility. And here's this a bit of novel concept which is worth exploring: the anti-fragility, because we cannot foresee everything. We have volatile market. You know, this year is horrible in terms of people staying in a job, and trends tend to change quickly. Money and investors can disappear overnight. You all heard probably about the Embracer Group, 2 billions, so. Not the best situation to be in. People can leave, people can get sick, you have some random personal events and so on. So what's anti-fragility is a term taken from book of Nasib Nicholas Taleb, Anti-Fragile, things that came from disorder, where we have triad of systems. In a broad sense, system is like human body, business, relationship, team. So you have fragile systems, robust and anti-fragile systems. And black swan seen in the picture is a problem, unpredictable event that has immense impact on the system. So fragile breaks, robust bends a bit but returns to the initial state, and anti-fragile actually gains. So it hardens through solving the problem. And in a gym, doing like 100 1 kilo rep is not as beneficial as making 5 times a 20 kilo rep. So muscles are, for example, anti-fragile. They strain and break a tiny bit and then rebuild stronger. So taking risks and allowing to make small mistakes can build resilience over time. And the problem is that people tend to do naive interventions. So trying to be very protective, micromanage, for example, to try to avoid the problem by doing things in place of your workers. So you don't give your people in the team the place to do a mistake and learn from it. And doing this on micro scale is less hurtful for team and makes smaller damage. And from it, actually, people can learn better and easier because if you build up through overprotectiveness, this avoidance, and then problems might stack up, then at certain point the system might break down. So that was, this is my another example. When I was younger leader, I was tending to not trust others and do a job instead of them because they did it very slowly, in my opinion. But then I overburdened myself, burned myself to the ground, and actually almost ended up in hospital because I was stupid enough not to trust others to do their job and make mistakes because I was focused on the goal, and I didn't. I think I thought that this one day delay was like a catastrophe to me, and didn't want to wait for others to finish their tasks. So this was like naive intervention that actually end up in failed project. So yeah, I try to be smarter now. How to build anti-fragility in practice. So each black swan after experience should be analyzed through team's retrospective. That way you can learn from your success and mistakes. You can use keep, stop, start, for example, to assess it as well. Knowledge overlap allows you to be more resilient for random events. At least 2 people know about each element of the system. That allows to mitigate the basic problem of, for example, if somebody gets sick. If you build confidence in your team, then you can delegate the work and the responsibility for a future system. So the sense of ownership actually makes the people care more about the final outcome of the own thing, and people try to be then more foresee the problems and then be more nimble in reaction to problems. And whatever happens, remember that we are not saving lives. Most of the contracts have contingency plans, and being late one day is not a catastrophe. As long as your team done everything they could, be proud of them. Even the biggest chaos can be divided into parts and dealt with step by step. So, since the lecture title revolves around the code teams, and I'm talking like 34 minutes about general stuff, so let's talk some details about the programming department and why it differs from others. So, our job is to be very detailed and do things in certain order. Many programmers have a high dose of conscientiousness in character. On average, we are not so open to the new experiences, and that leans us more into introverts, and we do not thrive on social interactions, like I said, on average, but rather try to survive through it. So moreover, we are rarely taught any communication and soft skills properly, actually. And that actually applies to everyone, I think. And on top of that, we are more or less stressed all the time. Our goal-oriented characters and work specifics lead us to be overburdened, crunchy, and burned out. So also, our smallest change or mistake can cause massive problem in the entire project. Thus, we have a high responsibility. Higher responsibility means higher pay grade, of course, on average, and people have higher expectations from us. So this is not perfect qualities to work with, but we have to communicate properly, since in design and code, everything comes together in the final product. So slowly coming to an end, what can we do in general on production level and in code to lead better? First, introduce Agile properly. So nothing angers me more than people saying Agile approach is not working, and while saying that, they are doing it completely wrong, because Agile is not only Scrum or only Kanban. Agile is this notion of leading the project, and it's very plastic in a way, and you can mold it in a proper way to your needs, but you have to think about it properly. Then organize workshops in teams and between teams. Knowledge sharing increases redundancy, so it's worth to invest into that. You can organize a short workshop every month, for example, and many departments have some overlap, so it's worth to do it as well. For example, conduct workshops on working efficiently with blueprints between designers and code teams. Then you can produce actually the technical designers, which is very helpful nowadays. Then it's worth to join up the art team and tool team to update them on the newest inventions, and maybe help them remember some toys that they might forget about. So refresh their knowledge in a bit about the engine or custom tools. Then leads vision meeting, a trick taken from movie industry that gathers up all leaders and producers, where the directors and boss updates on the company's most important events, the direction of the project, and higher level problems. And the most important thing is to ensure every leader is on the same page with management, and then one-on-ones. So it's important to meet from time to time to address some individual needs and problems. And production workflow tips. So unlock first approach. The goal is here to prioritize tasks that others depend on. So for example, for coders, most important thing after making a feature is to have it reviewed and tested, to be checked that it's fine, and then from that we can build further. For designer, feature reviewed and prototype. For artist, received feedback. So as long as we're not doing something critical, we should focus on unblocking others. Then compress communication blocks. So in general, we work better when we have a longer period of quiet time to focus. Then we can get into this flow state in which we are at our peak efficiency. So chopping up time with even short meetings gets us out of this flow. So try to compress all the meetings in a consistent time frame during the core hours. And remember to include breaks between meetings, because no one can focus with full bladder, right? And then systematic checkups. So it is wise as a leader to regularly check the quality of pushed content and code. So for code, it's easy because we can have a code review. But designers, for example, in Unreal Engine, can use the diff utilities to check the how the blueprint is made or how GDDs are processed. But artists can do that as well through regular feedback, vision meetings led with the department leader or art director. Then coffee time. In all of this efficiency, we should not forget about the leisure time now and then. In previous companies, I called it gorzkie żale. So the place to just cry about things, how the engine is a piece of crap, how this feature annoys me, and so on and so on. to vent out of the problems. And of course, we shouldn't prolong it to some absurd extent, but people should have a forum to speak about things not entirely focused on work. And actually, this is very important for people working remotely, because then it's harder to be like among colleagues, not only in professional way. Then code working tips, and pair programming, for example, is helpful when somebody is stuck. You can solve problems on the go, keep the code quality intact, and works in person as well as remotely, and this helps also to provide the redundancy of knowledge. Then code review is like no-brainer, and actually everybody should do it. Many people establish different rules. Code should be checked by more experienced member, or at least two pairs of eyes should look at the code. You have many ways to do it. For example, the static analysis, the dynamic analysis, when you have like automated system, when you can check given submits personally, and you can always have a meetup to explain the code and so on. Then open consultations. It was idea that evolved from having a bit longer daily meeting in the code. After our Scrum rituals with producer and some common problem solving time passed, we reserved up in one of the previous companies up to 30 minutes of consultations, where everybody from every department can bring up a problem to solve, which could be hard to describe in a task. And that way we reduced many small problems, since we had all programmers listening and someone always knew where the problem was, and we could actually fix it up on the go. And code on duty, this is another version of consultations on a finishing line when you do feature freeze and only solve bugs or test the game. At this point, we established the open hotline. So during the whole finishing line process, we have to have at least one coder present on duty always on time to solve problems on the go. And many times I received feedback that it saved the day, but it has a cost. It can overburden people, create crunch. So at a last resort, it can be very effective. But all in all, I encourage you to organize your project in a way that you don't need it. So, like I said in the beginning, you might not agree with everything I said today. Some things you already probably you already worked through and might not work for you. Still, I believe that at least some of those things will be applicable to your teams and companies and you will make use of it. So I believe that you want to be a responsible leader, or you want that responsible leader in your place of work. I feel that you want to build a company that lasts, makes great games without sacrificing your private life or health of your people. I believe that the only thing you will need to sacrifice is pride, and then a bit of commitment, attention, and time. So to summarize, quality of your leadership determines the amount of success of your team. Serve the people you're leading, show engagement and commitment, lead by example, prioritize in a smart way, communicate, give feedback properly, build a sports team, not a family. Team improvement is an infinite game, and aim for anti-fragility. And of course, we're hiring, so you can download the slides by scanning QR on the left and look for opportunities when scanning the QR on the right. You can always contact me in person. I'll be around. And here you have the links. Links for all the sources I used for the presentation. You will have all those in the takeaway slides. And thank you for your attention. You can find me on social media and reach out to me in person if you have any doubts or remarks. And again, you can just pre-scan it out. And if you have any questions, luckily I just fit right in the time, you can ask me something. So you have questions in the back. Actually, 2 questions. Give me more. 3 questions. Somebody. 4 questions. Okay. you have any microphone or somebody has? Yeah, somebody has a microphone.
Hi, hello. Thanks for presentation. Very nice. I have a question regarding pair programming.
Yep.
What is your approach on the project that you've been working with this technique? Because there are a lot of controversial stuff around the pair programming. Some people like it, some people don't like it, some people even don't know how to do it properly.
I know.
So,
but there's no, I think there's no like right sturdy way to do it. And most of the time, I just because most of the time I'm working remotely, we just connect through, I don't know, Slack, and show on the one screen the thing that somebody does, and then go through the code, or somebody explains to me what's wrong with it and how to approach it, and then on the way we either dictate something or show that, you see, in this point you probably have a bug, let's test it out, and then another step and another step. So you have like guided programming. Maybe that's the better term for it, because most of the time when I was in pair programming mode, when I was working in bureau, actually we sat like next to each other and then switched the places, and it's hard to do it remotely. So it's more like guided programming when we point out the problems on the go. And I don't know, it worked out sometimes, because we tend to get stuck mostly during the end of the production cycle, when you get nervous, when you have tunnel vision because we're doing some crap for like 2 weeks and we don't see the problem because we're just staring at one piece of the code and not looking out broadly. And then even this rubber duck approach can work if you know that you have somebody next to you, not judging you but trying to help you. Then you have this, and this is, I think, the most important thing, this emotional thing, that you have somebody to lean on and help you. So this is like the biggest aspect, that that somebody next to you won't laugh at you, won't point at you, but point at the problem you have on the screen.
Thanks. And one following question. So how production and management actually reacts to those pair programming? Because when you coding on yourself, you have your tasks, your colleague also have his tasks, and then probably you, like from production side, you're making 2 tasks, right? So when you pair programming, you're doing only one, so probably in schedules is
unlock first approach. You say to your management, listen, you want that feature, right? So this is the proper way to do it. Stay out of it because you're not a coder. So maybe not that aggressively, but just convince management or producer, listen, it is important, it's vital to finish up this task because it delays others. So in the longer term, I can sacrifice my 30 minutes of time or hour of time, and that person, this other coder, won't waste another day. So it's all about time efficiency.
Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah. And thanks for this.
Sure.
Is that depending on what the composition, like working days, very realistically?
I think it's worth to have at least one junior, because you have something to add knowledge. And in my opinion, during the budget meeting in the project, companies should think about taking into the budget itself that we're doing this project or we're doing this maybe half of the project, and we are hiring one junior instead of two mids. We can have like senior and junior, or one mid, one junior, because it's cheaper for once, but you can actually mold the person to your needs. And I try to encourage in all ways possible that companies should always introduce at least one junior per project to safely expand. And also having too much seniors can be problematic, in my opinion. So because seniors, if you have too many seniors from different companies and different approaches, then ego walks in very badly. So if you have like a good leader that can separate certain tasks or certain characters from each other, and or of course, if everybody communicates properly, it's fine. But if you have, for example, one mid, 4 seniors, and one junior, then this mid and junior often gets completely destroyed, and is either they are doing some mundane stuff that do not evolve them in a certain way, and do not allows them to excel in any way. They're just doing like mundane crap, and those specialists take all the cream, for example. But also, if you have too many seniors and you always have some mundane tasks, they get bored, and they can think about changing the company because they do not do the fun stuff. So this proportion, I think, is important. I don't know whether it will be a Gaussian method, so like one senior, one junior, and other mids in the middle. But like I said, having one junior and more mids than seniors might be a proper proportion. I can argue about that. We can talk through later on. If you'll say to me how big the team is and how big the code team is, we can think about the proper numbers, I think. But on the go, I'm not sure I can answer like right now. Anybody else? Sure.
And to that pursue, so the full story, what your boss will provide for your team.
Yeah. This is the hard stuff. Yeah. I would still try to fight for it. When I was negotiating this, I was ready, for example, to not get a raise myself, because I knew that I won't be able to finish this project myself. So I prefer to give other people's money than for myself. But if there would be no money to give raises, I would try to fight for at least the less stress. So the longer, the extension of the production time. This is another thing of thinking long term instead of short term, because short term, 1 month, of course, 1 month of several people team is expensive, but failing the project and failing the publisher and failing the company is more expensive than 1 month of, at least that, because this is the less stress in work actually is most of the time is more valuable to people than getting the money. Yes.
How would you implement the coffee time because in the remote environment it's challenging?
Yes, in current company, PixelAnt Games, we have twice a week a coffee time, specifically marked no working allowed, and people just gather up and talk about games, talk about things that they're doing, and it works quite well. And when I'm talking about these things with people that are not working in the building, in the bureau, but working remotely from their homes, they I cannot stress enough how they are emphasizing on it's really important to me that I can talk about anything at least twice a week to others, because then I can get to know other people. So I can see, like, in the live example, that it works and it is important. And 1 hour within the whole week, it's not that much. And since it's important, it's like really cost effective also. So yeah.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
I would like to ask about the one-on-one people deep, but what people see and what like length of the single meeting work best for you, like for your like from your skill.
At least half an hour per 2 weeks is like the minimum thing. If you see problems of sorts, or you see that some person in the team has a hard time, raise the frequency to at least one-on-one per week. And this meeting should last, I don't know, 15 minutes, sometimes 30 at most, because it chops up time too much. So it's worth taking note of that. But the time actually spent, if you have regular meetings, in practice gets a lot shorter, because if you work with people regularly, they will have their problems addressed on this weekly or 2-week basis, and then meetings actually can get shorter to, I don't know, 5, 10, 15 minutes, or they will say at some certain point, I have everything I need, thank you, and you just finish up the meeting. So this once per 2 weeks or once per week is a good start, and then from that point you will see whether it's better to raise or lower the frequency. Yes?
Harry, what do you think of positive?
Again, positive discrimination. Could you define positive discrimination?
First, positive diversity or Harry, what else?
I try to think of all people equally, and if I need some specialist of a certain division, I'm not trying to look at their orientation, identity, or so on. So I try to think practically about it, not in terms of, oh, I have to hire a woman now because of reasons. Try to do it that way. But I think the diversity, all in all, is very important, to have different opinions, different approaches. And sometimes, at least this certain percent of people is worth to just have like I see, like this, a positive discrimination. So I prefer to hire not easy question, but I think that looking at the diversity in team is important, but not the main goal, I think. Okay, finish up. Great. Thank you very much.